Welcome back to the Brothers War EDH. My name is Ryan. This is Chris. We're back at you again with our top 10 plus a shout out red cards of the Brothers War set. And yeah, red. Not a lot going on, honestly, but the number one card is a really spicy one.
Yeah.
So
we got a spicy one in here too because, well, you'll see why in a little bit. We'll tell you. I'll tell you what.
Right.
Number 7 is very spicy.
Yeah, number 7. Oh, gosh. All right. So starting off with a shout out, Mishra's Command, which is probably the best command out of all of them because all of them are not good. But this one just happens to be the best out of the worst. One red and X sorcery. Choose 2. Choose target player. That player may discard up to X cards. Then they draw a card for each card discarded this way. The spell deals X damage to target creature. The spell deals X damage to target planeswalker. Target creature gets plus X plus 0 and gains haste until the end of turn. Honestly, these abilities. At first, I thought that these abilities weren't too good for commander, but if you're doing it at a low mana. Well, actually no, because it's like a variable. You can take out a mana, in this case, a hate bear or something like that, and then discard X cards and draw X cards. You can 2-for-1 planeswalker creature. The plus X plus 0 on the haste. I don't know because this seems like one of those cards. Well, actually no, because you can use this to clear the way for you if you wanted to. But overall, to us, it's okay. It's an okay card.
You're going to be using the first 2 modes the most. I mean, you're going to be wanting to rummage your cards away, your worst cards away, while drawing those cards and then being able to kill a creature. Some other relevant applications is in Feather. I mean, you can 1 mana target creature gets plus 0 in haste until end of turn, and then you can do another thing if you wanted to just give Feather haste, but that's borderline level,
right?
And then it gets better as you have more mana. Even if you did it for 2 mana, you always choose for Feather to get plus 1 plus 0 in haste, and then maybe discard your worst card and draw a card or something like that, and you get to keep that for your next turn. But this is probably one of the better commands, even though we're not huge on all of the commands. It's I
think it's the
worth
only
a shout out
that
though.
We have throughout these lists, the only command that we mention, and it's not even in the top 10.
Yeah. Next we have Phyrexian Dragon Engine. It is a 3 mana artifact Phyrexian Dragon, double strike. Whenever Phyrexian Dragon Engine enters the battlefield from your graveyard, you may discard your hand. If you do, draw 3 cards, and it has Unearth for 5. Notably, this does meld with Mishra, claimed by Gix, but we're not on that episode yet, so we won't talk about it. But just as a face card, this is a pretty decent engine. I mean, no pun intended. But if you're able to reanimate this card, discard your hand, draw 3 cards. If you have discard synergies, graveyard synergies, we see how powerful some of these effects can be. So yeah, I mean, and the ability to unearth it, and then 2/2 double strike at base level is not embarrassing.
Yeah, I mean, it's
also an artifact. Yeah,
the meld part is definitely the best part of this card, but if you're able to get off the draw, the draw discard, it definitely serves its purpose, but outside of it can probably have a room outside of the meld, but if you're not melding with this card,
mono red strategies that want to put artifacts in the yard and stuff, I think they do want this. So I mean, I do think that there's some application outside of the Mishra thing, but overall it's a fine card.
Yeah. Moving on to number 9, Over the Top. 7 mana sorcery. Each player reveals a number of cards from the top of their library equal to the number of non-land permanents they control. Puts all permanent cards they revealed this way onto the battlefield, and puts the rest into their graveyard.
Yeah.
This is another one of those wacky. I mean, it's not as crazy as the Warp World because you're not really shuffling everything you have in and then doing it that way, but let's say you're playing like a token deck or something, like, where you have like a ton of permanents, because it says non-land permanents, so it's not like non-land, non-token, or like non-land cards. It's like non-land permanents. So all your tokens, like, let's say you like Dockside or something like that, and then you play this.
Yeah.
I mean, you might be able to do some fun stuff, but it would be way more interesting if it was just you. But it's also your opponents.
Yeah.
And like, maybe your opponents might have decks where it's like they're like spellslinger decks, and they don't have a lot of permanents. But like, if you're playing this card against like a like a green stompy deck, or like a big mana creature deck, like it's not doing you more than probably them.
Yeah.
But it's also dependent on how many permanents they have. So let's say you like ramp out this card very, very fast with like a bunch of like fast mana, or like freaking Dockside. You're probably doing more permanents than your opponents anyway, so it might be better that way.
Yeah. The way I think about this is, I mean, 7 mana, this should win you the game. And this is a card that can win you the game for sure, especially when you get into that late game and you have 7 mana. Notably, this doesn't enter the battlefield tapped, and it's permanents. So you get all the lands untapped. And then you also get, on top of that, creatures. So you want to be able to support this card. Have a lot of tokens, artifact tokens, creature tokens in your deck, to where it's a lot more than the other players.
Yeah.
And then more than likely you'll be able to win the game if you're playing a lot of powerful cards, a lot of powerful permanent cards. So this is one of those finish the game cards, and I do think that it has a spot on here for that. Next on our list, we have Feldon Ronom Excavator. This is a 2-mana, 2/2 human artificer legendary creature with haste. Feldon Ronom Excavator can't block. Whenever Feldon is dealt damage, exile that many cards from the top of your library. Choose one of them. Until the end of your next turn, you may play that card. So the reason why I like this card, this seems like a pretty fun commander to build around, because if you can find ways to deal 1 damage a turn to Feldon, and I know there's ways to do it, you can have an additional 4 cards on your turn, on your next turn, every turn. And that by itself is warrants a spot on this list, because you can do a lot with 4 cards, because again, like I say this all the time, the more cards you see, the higher chance you have to win the game.
Yeah, it's also too, is like, you get this like indestructible, and you just because when I first saw this, I was like, okay, well, let's say I put like a dark steel plate or something dumb on this card, and then I got like pingers that I can just ping it, or some loop that might just exile like my deck to then just play everything on my next turn. Yeah. Well, I mean, you can still play it on the same turn.
Yeah, until the end of your next turn, you can play that card. Yeah.
Next turn, so.
It's play again
card.
Yeah, this definitely, I didn't even think about the giving it indestructible, but if you can deal 99 damage to this card, you're probably gonna win the game.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I might look into that.
Yeah, I mean, you got your 0 mana artifacts, Ryan. You got your rituals, blah blah blah. I mean, this can do some work.
Yeah.
At number 7, we have the Brothers War. 3 colorless and a red for a saga. Create 2 tapped Power Stone tokens. Is the first chapter. Second chapter, choose 2 target players. Until your next turn, each creature they control attacks the other chosen player, each combat of able. And then third chapter, the Brothers War deals X damage to any target and X damage to any other target, where X is the number of artifacts you control. We had to add this, 1, because it is the name of our channel, but 2, because I actually think it's a pretty powerful card. The 2 taps Power Stone tokens fuel the last chapter, but I mean, in the right deck, you have an artifact token deck or something like that, like a Brutaclad, or in my case, like a Jaheira, Guild Artisan. This can do a lot of damage, and you choose 2 targets, not just 1. So you can probably one-shot some people with this if they're low enough life total. Yeah,
it's a lot of flavor on this card. Yeah. It's funny that it's a mono red, because you would think that the Brothers would be more like I don't know, blue red, or even like Grixis, but like hey, it does some pretty cool stuff. Yeah. It's on a saga. The artwork's great. Yeah. Just a very flavorful card, and it does have application to it. So it is very cool. Moving on to our number 6 spot on our list, it is Visions of Phyrexia. It's an enchantment, 2 and 2 red. At the beginning of your upkeep, exile the top card of your library. You may play that card you may play that card this turn. At the beginning of your next end step, if you didn't play a card from exile this turn, create a tapped Power Stone token. So it's like a red Phyrexian Arena kind of. You get to play you get like under the card, and then if you don't play that card, you get a Power Stone.
Yeah. So the first thing that comes to my mind when I think about this card is the Siege. I think it's the red Siege from
like Outpost or something.
I think it's Outpost Siege. But I mean, if you don't cast your card, you get a Power Stone. So you get a little bit of extra mana if you don't cast it. Or play it. So I do think that mono red decks that struggle with card draw or something like that would want this card as an additional value engine, especially if your commander has an activated ability.
Oh yeah, that'd be crazy. And as always, it says play, not cast, which I believe that like most red cards have it to where you play and not cast. But if it was cast, it would just be infinitely worse. But it is an interesting enchantment.
Yep. Moving on to possibly my favorite red card of the whole set, Mishra Excavation Prodigy. 3 mana, 2/1 human artificer, legendary creature with haste. 1 tap, discard a card, draw a card. So rummage. Whenever you discard 1 or more artifact cards, add 2 red mana. This ability triggers only once each turn. This card is so much better than the Urza because it's got better applications for its color. Discarding artifact cards in red is something that you do anyways, and then you add 2 red mana to your mana pool, so you're paying 1 to draw a card, get an extra mana basically. And if you can trash for treasure a huge artifact from your yard, hey, even better. This works good in the red black strategies where you have graveyard synergies, madness synergies. I mean, this has more applications than the Urza one, and I know I'm comparing it to the Urza one, but that's because that they are comparable because they're supposed to be comparable.
They're literally like just two sides of the same like realm, I guess. But in red you got like the Goblin Welder, Goblin Engineer stuff. The great trash for treasure, graveyard artifact effects and stuff like that, and this just works very well. And it's funny because I love commanders that you can cast with like Jewel Lotus. Like it, you get this guy out.
Yes, me too.
You get this guy out early. You're drawing cards, discarding artifacts to reanimate, and you're getting mana. Like there's some lines that might be very, 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 very quick with this card, and maybe people haven't really looked into it yet. But I definitely like it better than the Urza Prodigy. Way more application. Moving on to number 4 on our list, Mechanized Warfare. That's a 3 mana enchantment, another red enchantment. If a red or artifact source you control will deal damage to an opponent or permanent an opponent controls, it deals that much damage +1. So it's like the Torbrand style red cards, but it also includes artifacts. Artifact token decks might like something like this,
or even red pinger decks like the electrostatic fields, Firebrand Archers, those effects. I mean,
Walking Ballista. I guess you're doing like double.
Sure. This is a really good enhancer in your your pinger decks, your red pinger decks. Niv Mizzet is red. It could deal an extra damage. Double the damage. This doubles your pingers, which is pretty significant. Like, I know that it only adds 1 to like maybe a fireball for 5, but where this is going to shine is your pinger decks, and stuff like Reckless Fireweaver effects and stuff like that. So I do think this card is pretty powerful by just being able to double the damage on those. At number 3, we have Blast Furnace Hellkite. This is a 9 mana, 5/5 dragon artifact offering. We've never seen this before. You may cast this spell as though it had flash by sacrificing an artifact and paying the difference in mana cost between this and the sacrifice artifact. Mana cost includes the color. Ooh. Flying double strike. Creatures attacking your opponents have double strike. So what is it Emerge? Is that the one that is kind of like from Eldritch Moon?
Yeah, Eldritch Moon.
So this is kind of like an Emerge, but for artifacts, and you can cast it with flash if you do this as well. So like even if you had tokens that cost 0, I mean it doesn't reduce the cost, but you can sacrifice it and cast this for flash for 9 mana at base. And you obviously want to do this when you're attacking your opponents, swinging out big, and you have a huge artifact like a Spine of Ishal or something on your battlefield, and you cast this for 2 red mana. I mean, seems like a pretty powerful dragon to me. Also, a very good reanimation target.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's also funny because you can do this if someone else is like attacking someone else, and it's like they might have enough damage to actually kill. If they had double strike, you just flash this in and then bam, they're dead. Like it's a funny, like it's good for like your resources, but it's also good using the other opponent's creatures if they, if they're like a big creature strategy, or even like, maybe like they have like a commander that is about to try to get some more commander damage to like kill an opponent. This will just put him over the edge to actually kill said opponent.
Yeah, so being able to cast this at flash for 2 red mana is
that's insane.
If you have the support for it, I mean, it's pretty good. Even if you wanted to cast this for 5 mana, you had a 4 CMC artifact. I mean, that's still very good.
Oh yeah, for sure. Moving on to our number 2 spot, we have the Brotherhoods and 3 mana sorcery. Choose one. Deals 3 damage to each creature in each planeswalker, or destroy all artifacts with mana value 3 or less. So, well, for one, mono red like CDH, this is gonna just destroy all the mana rocks. That's pretty good. Yeah. All the treasures. It'll force people to have to give up their treasures. But also too, it acts as like a mini board wipe for all the mana dorks. So, it's versatile in this way, and the planeswalker part's probably not gonna be that relevant, but being able to destroy everybody's mana rocks, or even destroying their artifact creature tokens, also very good as well.
Yeah. On top of that, I mean, this is the Abrade on steroids. I mean, Abrade either does 3 damage to a target creature or destroys an artifact. This one deals 3 damage to each creature or destroys all artifacts with mana value 3 or less. Yeah, I mean, this card is pretty sweet. I mean, would you pay 1 extra red mana to do a board wipe instead of just a single target? Yeah, of course. Moving on to our number 1 spot, we have Sardian Avenger. It is a 2 mana 1/1 Goblin Warrior. It's got first strike, trample. Whenever it attacks, it gets +X+O, where X is the number of artifacts your opponents control. Whenever an artifact an opponent controls is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, Sardian Avenger deals 1 damage to that player. This card is bonkers. One, it's got 2 very, very important and relevant creature types in Goblin and Warrior, Nigila. We have first strike and trample, and it's a 1/1, but it gets +X+O, where X is the number of total artifacts your opponents control. This thing isn't dying in combat. And on top of that, it's a nice little hate bear. Whenever an opponent controls treasure, is put into graveyard from the battlefield, not an artifact card, just artifact, it does 1 damage to that player. So this is a heavy hitter, along with, just incidental damage over time. And at 2 mana, 2 relevant creature types, this card is the best card in red of the Brothers War.
Yeah, I mean, the first strike trample is just, let's just, is it? And it says your opponents, not like defending opponent, right?
Yeah, your opponents.
Yeah, so it's like let's say everybody has like 4 mana rocks.
Yeah,
it's like
not uncommon.
Yeah, I mean, especially now because treasures are just running running around like
now
like
Power
crazy.
Stones.
Yeah. Now Power Stones. Like this card, I'm not saying this card is like forced, but it's just a funny like maybe this is what they were trying to do about for Dockside or trash like that. Maybe.
I mean, the Dockside killer. I mean, the thing is though, it's funny that it's a goblin, but the thing is though, this card is not. This card is basically going to be a 2-mana 4/1 easily. Someone's going to have your opponents are going to have 1 artifact at very minimum, right?
Right.
So 2-mana 4/1 of First Strike and Trample is already pushed, and then add in the other ability to it, and that's only if your opponents control 1 artifact.
Yeah,
this card is nuts. Another great hate bear piece to add to the the Rakdos hate bears. So keep them coming. I'm gonna hopefully build that deck because it's unique and nobody's doing it. So I'm looking to add this to the repertoire.
Yeah, and even out like attacking, it's just so awkward to block because this thing is like a what if it's like a 10-1?
Yeah, the one toughness doesn't matter.
Yeah, because it's gonna get through, and then the rest of it just goes to you. Like, it's
and
by far the best.
On top of that, like you're taking more damage from him whenever an artifact is put in the graveyard. Anyways, that's gonna do it for our top 10 red cards of the Brothers War. If you happen to like our content, make sure you like, subscribe, sub. Turn on the notification bell. Tell your dogs. Tell your cats. I am Chris, coming at you from the Brothers War, and this is my brother Ryan coming at you from the Brothers War.
Yes.
We hope you enjoyed. We'll see you for the next one.